And that's well struck right field. Taylor back at the wall, looking out of here. Chourio's done it again, and we're tied at 3. He swings and drives one out towards right center. Taylor back, and it's gone. Mitchell, a 2-run homer, and the Brewers have the lead at 5-3, and this place has come unglued.
That's pretty special. A lot of guys contributed tonight. It was, again, you saw what our team's about, what they've been about all year. They didn't quit. They kept every pitch. Yeah, a lot of guys' contributions, but Chourio.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
I've watched and listened to those highlights a bunch of times. Dozens? Probably dozens. Somewhere in the dozens, 2-3 dozen times over the last 24 hours. Levering's call. Obviously, I'll have to play those at some point during tonight's show. I like the ESPN booth. I think for a national booth, they're fine. Nobody's Joe Buck. I really like Joe Davis, too. But I think Boog and Glanville, I think they're good. It's funny. Neither team thinks that the announcers are showing enough life one way or another. The funniest thing is I saw a friend of show, Locked On Cubs, Sam Olber, commenting on Twitter. Is like, man, Boog is so good. Like, perfect call of Chourio and Mitchell's homers in the 8th inning last night. I agreed. But Sam's point was the problem is that's the same call that they get from Boog on the Cubs broadcast. So I saw Cubs fans talking about the performance of Boog on ESPN last night. It's like, man, he's perfect for a national job because he's good at getting excited, but not getting too excited. The problem is when your guy is calling your games, when Boog is on marquee calling Cubs games, he doesn't do enough. He's the same guy. So I understand the frustration of Joe Buck and others. I saw an interview or a clip from an interview with Kevin Harlan and a lesson that he learned from Vern Lundquist long ago. It's like, don't look at social media. Nobody likes you. Nobody thinks you're good. He just doesn't look. No fan base ever thinks the announcer is doing a good enough job. It's been great. Now, the in-game interviews, we can get rid of those. I didn't even need those during the All-Star game. I am anti in-game interviews, and that's nothing against Jesse Rogers. I don't like the format. The game is important. These are the most meaningful baseball games. We played 162 regular season games for a 3-game wild card series. Like, that product, that can stand on its own. We don't need the in-game interviews. We definitely don't need players mic'd up on the field talking to them. I know they don't do that during playoff games, but man, these baseball games are awesome. We don't need the bells and whistles. But back to my original point, I thought Boog and Glanville were awesome. And maybe I'm a little biased. We had Glanville on Bill's show. Anytime ESPN's doing a game, he's more than happy to come on our network and talk about it, preview it. But really good broadcast last night. Obviously, really good game. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. The Brewers winning last night, coming from behind. It's amazing how much more fun playoff baseball is when your team is winning. When your team is losing, it might be the worst thing you can witness. It might be one of the worst things that you can endure. When your team's winning, feels like a completely different sport. I don't bring this up overly often, I don't think. I do enjoy some video games with the fellas. We like to play League of Legends here and there. And we always joke, it's like, man, this game is 10 times more fun, 100 times more fun when you're winning. It's amazing how that works. Playoff baseball is the same way. It's just so much better when your team is not losing. And last night's game wasn't without, missteps and errors. Montas not able to field his position, for God's sake. I would imagine they're doing PFPs and bunting drills on the field before tonight's game, knowing Murphy. I don't even care. Tobias Myers is going to start tonight. The lineup is out. I'll give it to you in a sec. I don't really care who pitches as long as they can field their position. That's been the Brewers' biggest issue. I want to take lots of calls tonight here from Brewers fans as we inch closer towards Game 3. It's at 6 o'clock, so we're going to be off the air at 5:30. It's going to be about a 90-minute show. So I would love to get your takes and your thoughts on both last night and a little bit of a vibe check, how we're feeling going into tonight's game. The lineup is out. I thought maybe we'd get Garrett Mitchell after his performance last night, although they're facing a lefty, Quintana. I thought maybe we'd get Haas. We have Gary Sanchez. We have Sal Frelick against Quintana, a lefty. I think Mitchell will enter this game at some point, possibly for Frelick. We'll see how Frelick performs when he's out there. I like righty-lefty stuff, and I think these Brewers outfielders are, for the most part, interchangeable. So I'm probably more so willing to go with the hot hand when selecting between Perkins and Frelick. and Mitchell. Mitchell, after that home run last night, I mean, we've seen this year when Mitchell gets it going and when he's on a hot streak, he's as powerful and as dangerous as a hitter as they have. I think quite literally, if you look at the stats, like when he's on, he's unbelievable. So getting him into the game at some point tonight, even though he's not in the starting lineup, I think is a reality. I don't know when it'll happen, but at some point you have to imagine it would happen. The lineup is Chourio, Perkins, Contreras, Adames, Sanchez, Hoskins, Frelick, Ortiz, and Terang. Tobias Myers is starting. Before we get super focused and before we start to take some calls and texts and, before we start discussing how we feel about tonight's game, a must-win game 3, I think we got to revel in last night a little bit. I know it's, been closer to 24 hours. We're closer to game 3 than we are to game 2 last night. I didn't write any notes down for tonight's show. Well, I wrote a couple things down, but normally for the first segment, I have some bullet points. It's like, okay, here's how I want to bring up the topic. Here's, the meat and the potatoes, some stats, some other things. Sometimes I have the show planned out wall to wall, like from 4 to 6, segment number 2, segment number 3. I want to get to all these things. A lot of times I have a very concrete first segment, and then we kind of see where the show goes. I think in a perfect world, if I really applied myself each and every day and I allocated my time and I really prepared, I would have a concrete first segment. And then like, hey, here's 3 or 4 other things that we want to get to before 6 o'clock. In whatever order we get to them, that's fine. Maybe we dwell on 2 and we ignore the third, right? I think that's an ideal way to do sports talk radio. I didn't write anything down tonight. I'm going to speak very much from the heart on my experience watching the Brewers game last night. And I think I've said this before. I've brought this up and I don't remember in what context, and I don't remember what I was referencing, but I think as you get older, I'm 26. So there are folks listening to the show that are younger who can probably speak to this. There are folks listening to the show who are older that can speak to this. As you get older, the magic rubs off of a lot of things. It's not to say that like life gets less and less enjoyable, although if you're, I guess, really nihilistic, you could look at it that way. But if you think back to when you're young, like I always think of Christmas vacation and Christmas Day. Like when you're little, that stuff's like crack. You're a month away from Christmas, counting down the days. The night before Christmas, you can never sleep. I was such a struggle sleeping. Or I remember when I was young, deer hunting, going to bed that Friday night before the deer hunting opener. I could never sleep. Now I swear I don't even dislike deer hunting anymore. It's just like, man, I get 2 days off from work. Do I really want to get up at 5:15 to go sit in the cold? It's like, no, I kind of want to get to sleep when I can take it. Sleep never used to be an issue. When I was young, deer hunting, I could not fall asleep. Christmas Eve night, I could not fall asleep. There was so much anticipation and excitement, and it felt larger than life, and there's that magic, right? And I still love Christmas. I still love Thanksgiving. I love the idea of deer hunting, even if in reality, it's maybe not something that I love to do. If I have 2 days off of work, I kind of like to sleep in and lay around the house. As you get older, right, I think the magic wears off a lot of things. Christmas is still great, but what I know, I've talked to people who are older than me, the magic of Christmas comes back to you as an adult when you can experience it with your kids and you can, see how hyped they get for it and see how excited they get. As we get older, there's very few things that have a magical feeling or kind of take our breath away. It's because the longer you're alive, the more of the world that you see how the sausage is made with this and with that and the other thing, right? There's just less of a childlike wonder about the world. And sports, you can still get it from sports. My point, of course, bringing this back to the Brewers. I remember watching the Bucks win the title in 2021. And I think any championship that your team wins will give you a sense of childlike wonder. I guess if you talk to a fan base, like if you talk to a Patriots fan, or maybe right now a Chiefs fan, like there are probably levels to championships. If you're used to winning them all the time, it's like, well, that one was a little bit more magical than the other. That one was a little bit more fun. At least in Wisconsin sports, we've been blessed with championships, but never in quick succession, never in repetition, right? The Packers won a Super Bowl in the late 90s. They won one in the mid 2000s so far, 2010. The Bucks got one in 71. They got another one in 21, right? We've all, I think, experienced at one age or another a championship. And I think because we've experienced so few, lucky to experience them, but we've experienced so few compared to other fan bases that have experienced dynasties or repeated championships. They're all magical on some level, but I think the 2021 Bucks championship, there was an actual, there was an inspiration factor there. Watching Giannis do what he did in Game 6, there was wonder, there was magic, there was something there other than the Bucks have won enough basketball games to hang a banner, which is great in and of itself. But there was another force at play. There was something else in the air in Fiserv that night, where now when I go back and I watch highlights, it's like, man, it makes you feel something, right? Makes you feel kind of like a little kid. Watching Jackson Chourio hit those 2 bombs last night kind of takes your breath away. It kind of makes you feel like a little kid. And then that Garrett Mitchell home run as well. I didn't really know what to say after watching those 2 homers last night in the 8th inning. There are moments, few and far between, even as you grow older and you see how the world works, and that sense of childlike wonder for so many different things kind of wears off. There's still moments here and there, fewer and farther between, but they're still there where you kind of feel like a kid. And I felt like a 6-year-old watching Jackson Chourio hit 2 home runs last night. And then, of course, what Garrett Mitchell did as well. Those are 2 or 3 of the most impactful moments I've ever felt as a Wisconsin sports fan. And maybe it's because the Brewers don't have a rich history of deep playoff runs and impactful playoff moments. I was trying to think, after Garrett Mitchell's home run last night, I tweeted something out. I'm like, where does that rank all time in Brewers postseason moments, Brewers postseason home runs? And I can't speak to the 80s. I don't really remember 2008 that well. That run was more about the magic of getting there. That was more like the movie Moneyball, the fight to get there rather than, what happened once you got in. 2011, there were some moments. That feels like a long time ago. I mean, it was 13 years ago, 14 years ago now? It's been a long time. If we just talk about 2018 to now, so you have a series against the Rockies. Mike Moustakas had a walk-off in that series. Series against the Dodgers, right? The moment that sticks out in that series more than any other is Brandon Woodruff hitting a bomb off of Clayton Kershaw. And I think if we were to rank postseason home runs in this current era of Brewers, I guess, postseason births, I think Woodruff off Kershaw would have to be number 1. But after that, I guess Thames hit a bomb in 2019, but that really didn't feel all that significant. That wasn't to come from behind. They ended up losing that game to boot anyways. 2020, I don't remember any of that year, so let's just set the pandemic year to the side. 2021, Rowdy Tellez had a massive home run in Game 1 that helped them secure that win over the Braves, but that series just, in retrospect, it just didn't feel that competitive. It didn't feel that compelling. There just wasn't a whole lot there. I think Garrett Mitchell's 2-run home run last night was 1B to Brandon Woodruff's 1A. And yeah, I think that that speaks to the lack of playoff experiences we've had, meaningful moving playoff experiences we've had as Brewers fans, for sure. Right? When you say, wow, last night, where does that rank all time? Well, for some franchises, that wouldn't even be an honorable mention. For franchises that have won multiple World Series and gone on lots of deep playoff runs. But the Brewers are not that. I don't have to tell you that. And I just think that home run from Garrett Mitchell last night ranks a lot higher than some might have thought at first blush. If I were to ask you, and some people responded on Twitter last night, it's like, in the top 5? No, I think it's easily in the top 5. I think it's in the top 2 of the last 5 years. I think it's pretty comfortably the second most important playoff moment in the last couple of years, behind Woodruff's home run off of Kershaw. And I saw some people pointing out, and we got this on Bill's live stream today too, it's like, well, the importance of that play, the value of that play will be decided tonight. If the Brewers lose, we'll forget about it. I mean, no, we didn't forget about Woodruff's home run. And I know that was unlikely because it was a pitcher, a left-handed batter, hitting a home run off maybe the greatest left-hander in a long time, Clayton Kershaw, one of the best of all time. I think that moment stands on its own legs. I think Garrett Mitchell, that moment stands on its own. I don't think the Brewers have to win tonight in order for last night to stick in our mind. Now, it'd certainly be a lot better if they win tonight. But I just want to make sure we all appreciate how important, how meaningful, and kind of how awe-inspiring Mitchell's home run was last night. Of course, the 2 home runs from Chourio too, but it's one of the cooler nights I've had watching Brewers baseball. And I guess that speaks to the lack of Brewers postseason success, but still, that doesn't mean that we can't celebrate it. That doesn't mean that we can't appreciate it just because we don't have a whole lot of other pelts on the wall as Brewers fans in the postseason, so to speak, right? 608-321-1670 if you want to text or call the show. hoping to speak with lots of Brewers fans tonight as we get ready for a must-win in Elimination Game 3 tonight, which will decide who moves on to Philadelphia in the NLDS. Your thoughts, your calls, your texts, you can comment on the live stream as well. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We'll continue the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Really impressed by how his season started, adjustments he made during this season. He's what I call a hitting savant. And what I've seen him do now, look at the difference, Lauren, and how he's gone to the opposite field. He only had 1 home run the other way in his first 100 games. These next 50, 5 home runs the other way, average over 500 going the other way. I call him a savant because he's not really locked up in the hitting mechanics. He's just an athlete in the box.
That's Tom Verducci, MLB Network earlier today. I really like that. They went on to break down a bunch of his home runs and how he never relies on a leg kick or a toe tap. Like, he swings a little bit differently every time. He's just such a natural hitter. And I don't know enough about baseball mechanics and hitting mechanics to fully appreciate and understand, like, you know, the parts of a swing and the way you do this with your feet and the way you do this with your arms. But basically, Verducci's point, and the segment on MLB Network earlier was, you know, he can hit it anywhere at any time from any position, and he can do it on any pitch. And that's where the term savant comes from. So I sent a link to Brett and Tosa, who sometimes bats leadoff when there's a big Brewer game to discuss. And I said, well, if I send you a link, like, you're going to be tailgating, you're out in the lots. Let's see if Brett has good enough reception to make this work. Brett, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you. What about me?
Oh my God, you sound and you look great. Oh, it looks beautiful in the lots. I wish I was there. Oh, paint the picture for us.
Well, here's this little guy. Ready to get a win, right? Ready to win a playoff series. So, I mean, it looks good out here. Weather's great. Let's hope the Brewers play better than whatever's going on with this lineup today.
You don't like the lineup?
They've submitted like 4 or 5 lineups. The Brewers admin cannot get it right. So
has it
we're
changed?
off to a bad start.
I keep trying to look like, did I miss something? Has it been the same, or what's changed in their different lineups they've posted?
It went from Terang hitting second with Contreras DHing to Terang ninth with Contreras catching, back to Terang hitting second with Contreras DHing, and now Perkins is second, Contreras is DHing, I believe. So
yeah, Sanchez is catching, which I actually don't mind Sanchez catching. Contreras calling some of these pitchers at some point. Like, I don't know. I think he's just going to dial up a bunch of fastballs for Myers, and I actually don't think that that's the right approach today.
Yeah, Tobias scares me tonight. I mean, he's been great all year long. It's just a rookie, and Brandon Woodruff started a postseason game as a rookie, right? I don't have the same confidence about Tobias Myers as I did 2018 Brandon Woodruff, but all we need is like 4 innings and turn it over to Piamps, McGill, Koenig, and Williams.
Get Piamps in this game. Do you feel any better about? I mean, the rookies, the young guys have played better than the veterans this series. I'm still waiting for the veterans to show up. Maybe that makes me feel actually even better about Myers and how he could play.
Yeah, I was really pumped for Willie and Hoskins in the playoffs here, and they've both done nothing. So I mean, Adames had a big hit in front of Mitchell last night, but yeah, a lefty on the mound. Hopefully one of those 2 guys can make something happen tonight. But Jackson Chourio, man, I mean, there's not words to describe. Like, we finally have that guy, like a legit superstar.
What were people saying in the stands after that second home run last night? Was everyone just kind of speechless, just staring off into space?
Yeah, I mean, it was just nuts in there. Like, maybe I got wrapped up in the moment. I still think the Woodruff homer against Kershaw and the Yelly homer in Game 7 were probably still louder. But I mean, when Mitchell hit the 2-run homer, I mean, that place went nuts. So.
Well, the jersey looks fantastic. The hats. I'm hoping for pinstripes tonight. So that's another thing that I'm worried about.
You can't switch it up, right?
I know. Well, enjoy the tailgate. I'll let you get back to it. By the way, the little your son, it's son, right? I'm sorry.
Yep, Brady, yep.
Brady was an opening day baby, wasn't he?
Yeah, last year. He's been at all the playoff games. He was getting tired at the end, but not gonna miss it. And hopefully we get a win tonight and move on and play the Phillies.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Brett. Enjoy the game.
Right.
Thanks for jumping on. Out in the lots. Appreciate him. Last night, I got a tweet from a listener. He said they had the speaker out there listening to the show in the lots. And I feel so honored to be in the lots, broadcasting even on one speaker. I'd take it. One person tailgating with AirPods in, I'd take. So Brett's out there tailgating. And that's what I thought. And I couldn't remember if Brett was a son or a daughter, but I remember the story last year on opening day. It was the first opening day that Brett had missed in maybe ever, but certainly in his adult life, because he had an opening day baby, him and his wife did. I ran into Brett in Eagle River this last summer of all places. And I had never met Brett in Tosa in person before, but Brett has been a caller. You know, I used to listen to a lot of 1250 AM, The Fan or 105.7 SSP in Milwaukee when that station was kind of at full strength, at full power. And Brett would call to talk. I knew Brett in Tosa. I knew that name, and I knew his Twitter account. And I was in Eagle River this last summer, a place I'd never been to before. Like a lot of people, they go up to, they have a cabin up in Eagle River. Where I come from, my friends and family, you go to Gordon. That's where your cabin is, northwest side. We're not over on central or eastern Wisconsin up in Eagle River. Never been to Eagle River before. And I can't remember which bar it was. It was a bar that Cone told me that I had to go to when I was up there. The Marina, maybe. And I'm leaving the bar, and I walk by a family donned in Brewers gear all the way down to the socks. Like not just like Brewers hat, Brewers jersey. People wear that all the time in the summertime in Wisconsin. That wouldn't have stuck out to me. But it was like Brewers hat, Brewers jersey, Brewers socks and shoes, Brewers flip-flops. Like that looks like Brett. And because I'm socially conservative, let's say, all the time, I was going to DM Brett. I'm like, are you in Eagle River? And I just, Brett, without even really looking. And I saw him turn. I'm like, oh my God, I just ran into the whole The whole family. So good luck to the Brewers. Enjoy the tailgate out in the lots, Brett. I appreciate you hopping on. That was an incredible visual if you're watching on the live stream right in front of the park. He walked away from his tailgate to get us that visual. So I wish I was at the game tonight, but we'll do the de facto pregame show, maybe a little postgame live stream afterwards tonight. But it's just amazing how the attitude and the energy from Brewers fans changed after last night. Fair weather fan base. No. And I won't apologize for that. I won't apologize for my attitude completely changing today, and neither should Brewers fandom. The team had lost, 10 of 11 postseason games? The crowds have been dead. Well, give the crowd something to cheer for. Like, you guys had blown leads in 4 straight postseason games. You can't field your position. You went 17 up, 17 down to end the show. Or to end the game. The game, what's the difference? And, the crowd was dead. Man, the team's got to meet the fans halfway here. I think the fans do more than enough. Getting to the ballpark, getting through the turnstiles. At some point, you lose 10 of 11 postseason games. The team's got to meet the fan base halfway. So that's what that was last night. And I think it did wonders for the attitude and the approach of many. Now, we can't stop being negative about the team because then they'll stop trying. We need to keep the foot on the pedal, at least on the internet. We can't take our foot off the gas. We can't be too nice to them because then they'll stop trying. They'll take the foot off the gas. So keep on them. But man, it does feel better today. It feels so much better today than it did yesterday at this time, going into game 2 after the debacle that happened in game 1. It was the same debacle we watched last year in game 1 against the Diamondbacks. 608-321-1670. Your calls, your texts, more of your commentary, a Brewers vibe check as we go into game 3 tonight. I also have some audio from certain players and a little bit from Murph that I want to play you as well. Wisco Sports Show will be back in a couple minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
This game wasn't lost by Phil Maton. I mean, Phil Maton had nothing. I mean, he had some good games down the stretch, but he had fucking nothing today. Should never have been allowed to face Mitchell. I mean, my God, God forbid it's Adam Ottavino, but you cannot have him out there where Mitchell just being fucking a monster against the Mets. But Pete Alonso, build up your weight, you fat. You're turning into Daniel Vogelback more and more every day. I know you both went to Florida, so obviously you're every at bat you fucking suck. You cost yourself more money. I don't care if you even sign anymore. I mean, the Mets are going to give you the qualifying offer. I'd rather have the draft pick.
That's Frank the Tank, Frank Fleming, Barstool, big Mets guy. After last night's game, normally I don't get anything from the fan meltdown corner of the internet. It's become very popular now for fans to stream themselves live watching the game and then to rage or have a meltdown, and it's entertainment. And if you like that sort of thing, it could be funny here and there. I didn't really have an opinion of Frank until, 2 or 3 months ago? He threw out the first pitch at a Brewer game. He did this summer tour. He went to all the ballparks, and he's a big baseball guy. I appreciate anyone in the mainstream, especially like Barstool, who's into baseball, because I think we need, as degenerate baseball fans, we need more representation at places like Barstool. I like that he's super into baseball, but I really liked the things that he had to say and kind of his coverage, if you will, from throwing out that first pitch and being an American family, taking a tour. And then I also heard him do an interview, and I guess I'll tip my cap to a competitor, a competing radio station. He did a hit with Zabe in Milwaukee, Steve Zabin. And I thought it was awesome. I'm like, I love this guy. And I also think that clip is like a perfect encapsulation of what baseball fandom is. Your team loses, you're miserable most of the time. There was a tweet that was trending a couple months ago where it's like, men will watch 162 baseball games. They'll be miserable the entire time. That is correct. But you see the bullet points in there. It's like, well, this reliever sucks, but it's not his fault. He shouldn't have been out there. It shouldn't have been the other guy, though. God forbid Adam Ottavino would have been out there in that spot. So, he doesn't really say who should have been out there. And then he says, oh, and Pete Alonso, that fat, F. He's not doing his job either. Pete Alonso had nothing to do with that inning where the Mets were giving up home runs. He just goes down the bullet points of how degenerate baseball fans react to games like that. And I love it. That's not a criticism. He's doing it right. It's the way that you should do it. He's doing it the right way. 608-321-1670 to the phones. As promised, I want some of your thoughts going into Game 3 tonight. Wisco Sports Show. Hello, who's this?
Hey, it's Uncle Packer or Brother Brewer today. I don't know which one I am, but I'm holding my breath, Grant.
Oh my God. Well, you feeling okay? You feel excited, but you always sound excited. Even if you're nervous on the inside, you put on a good face.
Yeah. I'm you know what? I had a very important appointment today, or I would have been in Milwaukee, half my face blue, half my face gold. I would have been just rocking. I would have been bringing the energy that I hope my Brother Brewer fans are doing today, because we need it. We need to carry the Brewers past this New York mess. I don't know what to call them.
The Metropolitans, Brother Brewer.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know.
What is that?
Sounds like a fruity drink, if you ask me.
Hey, yeah, me too. I'm thinking that we need the trifecta of Wisconsin sport heaven. You know, we need the Bucks to be into kind of a meaningful preseason. We need the Packers to be charging on, and the Brewers playing into October, into Major League Baseball. I love it. Would that be awesome right now?
It would be. You know what I want, Brother Brewer, and enjoy the game tonight. Deep breaths. We'll get through it together. You know what I want? I want the Brewers to come out and score like 7 runs in the first 2 innings. Just crack this team. Just end it. When was the last time the Brewers actually opened a can on a team in the postseason? I actually don't remember the last time it's happened. Hasn't really happened in the last 11 games or 12 games. They lost 10 of 11. If they would have whooped up on a team, they might have won one of those games. I would just love a big victory party, a hit parade, an actual crooked number. That's what I would like. You do it early. You get the crowd at your back. You get the Mets feeling like they let this one slip away last night. Worry creeps in. That's how you win tonight's game. The Brewers are better. I think especially some of their big sticks in the middle of the lineup. Contreras had an awful night last night. Adames did get the hit, but I think overall so far through 2 games, small sample I know, been underwhelming. And Hoskins, we're still kind of waiting for that moment. It is the most popular, the trendiest thing right now to be like, I think Hoskins is going to have a moment. We've been saying that all summer. And if it doesn't happen tonight and the Brewers lose, it's not going to happen at all. So I would love to see that from Rhys Hoskins. I'm hearing that from a lot of people. The veterans, I think, need to show up tonight. The young guys and the 20-year-old have been carrying water the last couple games. I would like to see the veterans show up. Couple big swings tonight. 608-321-1670. Loaded phone lines. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Darnell the Chump.
Hey, Darnell. I see on the live stream that you're a nervous wreck. Am I reading this correctly?
That is correct. I am a nervous wreck. But I'm a confident nervous. I was more of a nervous, pessimistic nervous last night.
Which, by the way, don't apologize for that, Darnell. They had lost 10 of 11 playoff games. Oh, I'm a bad fan. No. You should have been. That's your mindset. That's where you should have been last night.
Right. And I mean, let's be real. They didn't really give us anything to base confidence off of that first game. Exactly. They didn't. Too many blown opportunities that they somehow took advantage of last night, even though they also played a really, really bad defensive game. I don't think people are talking about that because we're all talking about the 2 homers from Chourio and Garrett Mitchell's bomb, right? But the defense last night was still terrible. So they can improve. Like that's what's confidence inducing for me is they still didn't play a great game yesterday and somehow pulled it out. So, you know, if they are able to actually put one together here, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? Like they could definitely blow out the Mets. They've done it before. So, yeah, let's hope that this one's done early and it's done early in the Brewers' favor. So that how
about a crooked number? How about you actually stack up some runs? And I understand in the postseason it's hard. You're going against teams that are throwing their best pitchers. They're not leaving starters out there to get banged around. If a starter starts to struggle, quick trigger, they're pulling them. I understand it's harder to score runs in the postseason, but we're going on what feels like a 15-game stretch. Like, can we score 6, 7, 8 runs? You stack up a couple runs early on. You start to put the pressure to the Mets. The crowd's behind you in game 3. I just think the Brewers last night built up so much juice and goodwill and energy with the fan base and the crowd that'll be there tonight. And I'm not saying that that'll disappear if they don't get off to a good start. I'm just saying you can really harness it and supercharge it with a fast start and maybe a big number offensively, or just a number. I'll start with a number offensively in the first, second, third inning early on. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Ed McQuanigo.
Hey, Ed. What's going on?
Not much, man. Still pretty pumped from last night. I'm feeling pretty pumped about tonight. I'm not feeling nervous. Like, I'm just ready for it, man. I love what you said about, the youthful feeling and the magical moments, because last night, I don't know how I didn't wake up my 3-month-old son, because he was upstairs and I was downstairs screaming my brains out after both of those homers. Just,
it was unbelievable.
I was letting it rip, man. Oh, it was great. It was a great feeling. I haven't felt that pumped up for a while.
Since what, 2018? Is that the last time we felt that? Seriously, like the last playoff game we felt that.
Dude, so I was at, I want to say game 4 against the Dodgers when we won, and that was amazing. But I remember 2011 against the Diamondbacks, and that was like my first real big like playoff game experience. And I'll never forget that. The towels and everything and the atmosphere, it seemed like there were 60,000 people there. It was so electric. So all those were great moments. But, tonight, like, I don't care who does it. Like, yeah, Hoskins needs to do something, right? I get it. I don't care who does it as long as we pull it out. But that being said, I need to see something from William Contreras. Like, he is too good to be doing so little. Like, that he's had 2 hits. That's it, right?
Well, and he had one of the worst at bat. It's more the quality of the at bat. Like, I understand the results can ebb and flow, and he actually had some results. He had some RBIs in the first game. And Ed, we just got a couple people on hold, so I'm going to cut you loose a little early. We'll talk more tomorrow or early next week. Like, it's not even about the results. It's the way the at bat looked last night. He had one at bat with runners on, took strike 1, took strike 2, swung at strike 3, up and in. It's like, well, what was that? The at bat never even started. I think that was in the 4th, maybe 5th inning. Manaea was still in the game, I think, at that point. 608-321-1670. I concur on the veterans. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Come on. Nervous is game 7.
It's an elimination game. Game 3, game 5, game 7. They're all.
But I will say, I listened to last night's 8th inning. I got excited. I'm pulling for guys not like Darnell, these young puppies. They don't know what rooting for a team is. Guys like Clem, this last guy, and Tom this morning,
mm-hmm.
Those are the guys I'm pulling for, who've been Brewer fans for 30, 40 years. They go back to the young Brewers. Those are the fans I'm pulling for. These young punks in their 20s and 30s, they don't know nothing. I mean, come on. But I'll have the game on the radio. I wish it was Euchre, because those two ass clowns doing the game they put me to sleep.
Levering's good. What issue could you possibly have with Levering? Levering's great.
The good ones are Ron Coomer and Pat Hughes, but I wanted Euchre's 8th inning call, man.
Well, we had Bug, we had your boy Shambi. How do you say it?
They're nothing like Pat Hughes. But no, anyway, I just call this. I'm going to turn it on. But now we're going to see Pat Martin. Is he going to nut it up?
Oh, Pat Murphy.
It's his chance, or is he going to be like the clown prince of 8 holes in Chicago? We're going to find out tonight, because you don't leave pitchers in, past 1 or 2 runs.
Do we really think? By the way, do we really think the series so far has been defined by the managers? I think managing the managers have had very little to do with the series so far.
Yeah, I know. Game 1, your boy messed up. When you got a pitcher who got 9 consecutive outs,
who cares? Freddie is always one inning away from completely melting down. That does not mean anything.
You can't base your manager. You can't base it on that potential. The guys go, you got to base it on tonight. I don't care if a guy's got a 50 ERA.
We've watched him make 30. Dave, my point is on the Peralta stuff. Like, we have so much evidence this year where Peralta can be rolling for 2 or 3 innings, and then all of a sudden completely loses it.
How much evidence do you have in the playoffs? The regular season means absolutely nothing.
Well,
if you go
the same sport.
But anyway, that's 2 days ago. I'm going to pull for the Brewers, because the more they win, the more my customers love me, and the more contacts I make. So,
hey, lastly, are you going to the Badger game on Saturday?
No, I haven't been to a Badger game in years.
Really?
They couldn't give me free tickets up in the clubhouse. I won't spend a dime because of no money. That team has gone to hell, and it's because of nil. Until they get rid of that, those players don't care. They got their money. They don't care. You can see it in the field. You don't care.
I would be interested. Dave from Minot, everybody. I appreciate it. I thought for whatever reason you went to some Badger football games. I feel like there's been a million things going on this week, so it's not like we haven't talked enough about Wisconsin, Purdue. We did a little bit of an inflection point here. If they lose to Purdue, I think 2-2 against Bama and USC in the 2 non-conference games. I think we all could have seen 2-2 coming. Like you hope for 3-1. You hope to maybe get Bama or USC. I think the thought of upsetting either went out the window very quickly when we saw how they looked against Western Michigan and South Dakota. But man, they lose to Purdue for the first time in 23 years? When was the last time they lost to Purdue? The early 2000s? If they lose this game, Braylon Allen and Jack Sitchie on Twitter, that's going to be the least of Luke Fickell's problems. And look, they're not a good team. Jesse Temple keeps reminding us on our hits, and I think it's a good point. It's like, you guys got to stop treating them and talking about and expecting and viewing them like they're a good team. They're not. So maybe I shouldn't be putting expectations on the Purdue game. I'm just saying, alumni, Badger fandom, not going to react well if the Badgers lose on Saturday at Purdue. So I thought I'd ask you if you were going, Dave. That's it. Jesus. NIL. I don't like it either. 608-321-1670. One more call, then we'll take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It's Dr. Rosenpenis.
Dr. Rosen. What's up, Big Ron?
Speaking of Badger games, Badger Buddies and a couple other guys are coming out not this weekend, but next weekend to Jersey for the Rutgers Badger game.
Oh, is that in Piscataway? That's North Jersey, right?
Yes, I live in North Jersey.
Well, I've been rewatching The Sopranos, and I just watched Pine Barrens last night, and they said that's South Jersey, as if like there's this line of demarcation.
Well, there is, because South Jersey is all Philadelphia sports fans, right? And North Jersey is all New York sports fans. So there is a line of demarcation.
That's just New Jersey's just the East Coast's waiting room, isn't it? It's a space between bigger cities. Is that all it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's one giant suburb. It's the most densely populated state in the United States. There's no farms. There's there's a couple of vineyards, but there's just not much rural, farmland. It's just one big giant massive suburb.
I feel like it's cities and then either the Pine Barrens or the Meadowlands, which is just one big swamp, right? Like there's no countryside of New Jersey, put it that way.
No, there's no countryside. You're right. There is a swamp right by Manhattan where MetLife is, where the Giants and Jets play. But so I saw you tweeted last night a question to the Twitterverse about the best home run in Brewers history.
Postseason. Just postseason.
In postseason, yes. And I took a little different slant to that. I broadened out the category and I said the best hit. And I was 9 years old in '82, so I can remember Cecil Cooper's clutch game-winning hit in Game 5 of the American League Championship Series back in '82. I'd say that's the most clutch hit in Brewer history. I would say Tony Clutch's hit in 2011 to win the divisional series against the Diamondbacks was the second most clutch hit in Brewer history. And I put Chourio's game-time 8th inning home run right up there, and Chourio and Mitchell right behind him. And then I think, you got Woodruff in Game 1 of 2018 off Kershaw is a big hit. Yelich's home run in Game 7 of the 18 NLCS.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Braun's home run in 08, which was clutch and got him into the playoffs against the Cubs.
In the moment, in the very brief moment, that Yelich home run in Game 7 felt like the most important Brewers moment in franchise history since '82. But it was early, and then they turned around to lose. Right. And if the Brewers lose tonight, and I'm sorry to go down this way, but I'm just saying, if the Brewers lose tonight, like, I don't know that the events of last night will be cheapened much. I think they'll be cheapened. But to your point, some of the moments in the past, I think Woodruff's home run off of Kershaw stood up the test of time because it was kind of its own thing. Yelich's home run in Game 7, had they won that game, would have been huge, but that one kind of gets forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, Yelich's home run gets forgotten because they lost, and Woodruff's was Game 1. It wasn't an elimination game, and that's why, I kind of downgrade Braun's 08 home run, against the Cubs. That wasn't an elimination game, although maybe it was. I don't know. My memory's hazy on the 08, but this was an elimination game yesterday. We were on the brink of being eliminated. We were like 5 or 6 outs from being eliminated, and Chourio just Oppo Taco, man. I mean, that was just unbelievable.
There's just so much strength. Enjoy the game tonight, Big Ron. Thank you for indulging me in talking about New Jersey. Never been to the East Coast. I want to go just to drive on the highways and see the things. And just like going places and doing things. It's not like I just want to drive around. I want to drive around. I want to see the cities. The East Coast is appealing to me because you can get in your car and like hit so many. Like in Wisconsin, you drive to Milwaukee, St. Paul, it's like 5 hours. On the East Coast, you can Philly, New York, but like you can just bounce around, and it's a couple of hours, but it's not, in order to hit cities that big from where we are, like how many hours of the Twin Cities, how many hours of Chicago, and then what, St. Louis, Detroit, talking about closer to, 8 hours, 10 hours. I just want to drive around on the East Coast, but that's a separate thing. Yeah, I think Woodruff off Kershaw and then Garrett Mitchell's home run last night. I think it's right there behind it. I do, just because the moment, it was at home, it was late in the game, it was take the lead, it was everything. One final break of the hour. We'll come back, continue things next on the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
And what the is this ESPN? It's a 9th inning, and you're showing an damn interview. I'm tired of the in-game interviews, and you missed a pitch. You missed a key pitch in the 9th inning. ESPN, you drop it. Get baseball off ESPN. They hate baseball. It's clear. Their coverage sucks.
It's more of Frank Fleming after the game last night. It's just so good. I love him. I'm a fan, especially after him coming to Milwaukee this summer and taking the tour around the ballpark. And I listened to some interviews and things he did. I'm a fan. And he's right. It was the 9th inning. The Brewers were up 2 runs. If the game ended expeditiously, let's say, Devin Williams goes 3 up, 3 down, as he did. Garrett Mitchell is 4 minutes away. You can interview him then. The buzz from that moment isn't going to wear off. And if Devin Williams blows the lead and something crazy happens in the 9th, you're going to want to interview one of the Mets. Anyways, you don't need to interview Garrett Mitchell right there in that spot. You don't need to do it. Like the show's going along, the game's going along, all of a sudden, let's go down to the dugout. Jesse Rogers, who again I like, here's Garrett Mitchell. The show's going on, broadcast is going on. This is interview, the on-field interviews, in-game interviews, just constantly. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Cone here.
Hey, Cone. We got about 2 minutes, so sorry to pack you in before the top of the hour. You know I don't like doing this.
No, that's all right. I was at that game 1 in 2018 when Woody hit that bomb, and honestly, I think it was louder when the Dodgers pulled Kershaw after like 4 innings or something than when Woody actually hit the home run. Really? That was insane. That was when these Miller Park crowds were actually good, in my opinion. I think the crowd's been lacking these last 2 games.
Tickets are so cheap. Why aren't people going? If I didn't have to do a show right now, I'd be there. You can get outfield tickets. You get low level tickets for like $35-$40.
It just bothers me when crowds only stand when there's 2 strikes with 2 outs in an inning.
Yeah.
Like, it's game 3. It's elimination. Let's get the fans standing the whole game.
It's game 3. Doesn't really have the. I know what you mean. It doesn't really have the same ring. It's game 3. It just doesn't have that punch. Although the stakes are high, to your point.
Yeah, and just has this Jackson Chourio contract already paid off? Like knowing we got this guy for what, 8 years?
Yeah,
10 years, whatever it is.
Like he's going to be free by the end of this thing, or at least that's how it's going to feel. Yeah. We talked about this with Kurt. Like, there's no reasonable world in which he could have been better this year. Like, this is as good as it gets.
Amen. And it's, Braun 2.0, in my opinion. Finally.
15 seconds.
I forgot what I was going to say. Let me go. Go Brewers. Let's win this. Let's advance. Survive and advance. Let's go.
Hell yeah, Cohen. Let's go. Text in whatever you were going to say, because I know that you remember. I'll get to it after this break. 2-minute update from Zach Heilper, and we'll continue the Wisco Sports Show next. Sorry, Cohen.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it'll be the Brewers and Mets one more time tonight in a deciding Game 3 of their NL Wildcard Series. New York took the first game. Milwaukee came back last night to take Game 2. Tonight will feature a pitching matchup with the Brewers rookie Tobias Myers and the Mets veteran Jose Quintana. It could be argued Myers was the Brewers' best starter this year as he went 9-6 with a 3.00 ERA. Quintana was solid too, going 10-10 with a 3.75 ERA. Throughout his career, including 4 years spent with the Cubs, Quintana was viewed as a Brewers killer, posting a sub-3 ERA against them in his career. He definitely has manager Pat Murphy's attention and admiration.
Yeah, I got great respect for this guy pitching, man. I've seen him a bunch. All different scenarios. I just know I respect the heck out of him. He's an ultimate pitcher, holds runners, fields his position, does all the things that I love in a pitcher. I've always inquired what his availability was anytime. He seems like the right person, the whole thing. So I got great respect for him.
Again, it'll be the Brewers and Mets tonight at American Family Field. The winner of the game going to move on to face Philly in the NL Division Series. First pitch is coming up at 6:08.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Farmers deal with a lot, including long days, stress, and fatigue. This is your reminder to take breaks, stretch, have a snack, and hydrate your body. Avoid farm accidents by keeping yourself healthy. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn how Rural Mutual supports Wisconsin farmers and prioritize safety on the farm.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, Coach Matt LaFleur isn't sure if Romeo Dobbs is going to be available this Sunday against the Rams. Wide receiver missed practice today for what LaFleur called personal reasons, and he's not sure of his status for the game. Green Bay did get back several key players at practice today. That included Jair Alexander. Kick on Sundays at 3:25. The Badgers going to face Purdue on Saturday morning. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
And that's That's well struck right field. Taylor back at the wall, looking out of here. Chourio's done it again, and we're tied at 3. He swings and drives one out towards right center. Taylor back, and it's gone. Mitchell, a 2-run homer, and the Brewers have the lead at 5-3, and this place has come unglued.
That's pretty special. A lot of guys contributed tonight. It was, again, you saw what our team's about, what they've been about all year. They didn't quit. They kept every pitch. Yeah, a lot of guys' contributions, but Chourio.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
The calls were good. Those were pretty good home run calls. And again, I have Levering's calls. I can play them before the show is done. We're getting ready for game 3 tonight. And as Cone said before that last break, like, it's game 3. Come on. Which it doesn't sound, when you say it's game 5, it's game 7. There's some punch, there's some pop. But really, this is de facto game 7. Winner moves on, loser goes home. And it all feels so much better today than it did last night. Oh, my God. Doesn't it feel so much better? It's amazing what one postseason win in 10 tries will do. It's amazing. It's amazing the shot in the arm that can provide to a fan base. 608-321-1670. If you have any Brewers thoughts before the game tonight, we're going to be off the air in about a half hour, 5:30, because the Brewers play at 6, and the Brewers Radio Network's going to kick us off the air, which I don't mind because I'm going to go home and get ready to watch this game. Maybe do some post-game streaming, podcasting. Probably not. We'll see. Depends what happens. Let me play the results. That's what we do when judging these managers. I'll play the results and then decide what I want to do for any post-game coverage tonight. But Scott Grodzki, CBS 58, going to join us in about 10 minutes. He's at the ballpark. I said, hey, do you just have 5 minutes? Just quick check-in. Paint us a picture of the sights and the sounds of the ballpark. We got the sights and the sounds of the lot. Brett and Tosa joining the live stream. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you would have seen that. Otherwise, you heard him on the air. You just didn't see the awesome visual he gave us, leaving his tailgate to walk right over in front of the park. That was great. Let's take a call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Steve from Madison.
Hey, Steve. What's going on?
Oh, I was just wondering if there might be a Craig Counsell sighting at the game tonight.
Do you have any intel? Do you have any reason to believe, or you're just wondering?
I was just,
Do you think he was watching the last 2 nights? Cubs aren't in it.
Oh,
What do you think he's been doing? You think he's been watching baseball?
Well, I'm sure he was.
You think so?
Yeah, just, I like any chance now that the Brewers can, to stick it to him. I'm all for it.
I would like that. I don't know. I'd like if Craig Counsell was there. They put a picture of Craig Counsell on the scoreboard for a season recap video on Saturday when I was there, and the whole place just started booing. I mean, it's like fish food into a tank of hungry goldfish. Like, that's anytime Counsell appears in that stadium or at Target Field. He appeared at Target Field when Brewers played. They booed him there.
Yeah, it's funny. The guy wants to be there, but he can't be there because he'll just get booed right out of the
Do you think he wants to be there? Do you think the Brewers fan deep down in him wishes he could go?
Oh, yeah. I think, he might not admit it, but he's part of it. I guess I think he would regret the decision he made. But
well, after 1 year, maybe
down to,
$8 million, Steve. That's just so much money.
Well, that's why I'm hoping they go to the World Series and win this year. Just
to stick it to him. Would be nice. Yeah. I mean, it would be like Favre leaving after 2008 and the Packers turning right. There are some parallels there. I don't know if Steve, I appreciate the call. It's a good one. I don't know that he regrets it because he's making $8 million. And I just don't know. When you operate in that world, high levels of business or sports, I think you just got to plow forward all the time. I don't think people in positions and in jobs like that, I don't think they can be regretful. $8 million, not too bad. I'm sure he wished the baseball stuff would have been better this year. I also think he believes that they have a runway. They have players coming up in Chicago, right? He said in his introductory press conference, it's a great day to be a Cub, right? So I think he believes in what the organization is doing. I just don't know if they're maybe a little bit behind where he thought they'd be. I don't know. You have to ask him. I don't know. Cone texts in, and this is what you forgot to say, Cone. This is this is what you wanted to talk about. He said, is this season considered a success because we won at least one playoff game? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the real hard-hitting sports radio question would have been if they lose the first two games, if they don't win a playoff game, if they got swept out of the wild card round by the Mets, would the season still be considered a success? Winning the division, winning 90-plus games, but then losing two more playoff games and getting bounced out of the playoffs. Would that have been a success? I think most people would tell you, yes, it's been a success after they won a playoff game last night. If they lose to the night, does that switch? Does then the season become not a success? I don't know. Classic sports radio question, Conan. You're so good at providing those topics. This text says, Hoskins and Contreras going to rake tonight. I always love the show. Cody and Menominee. God. If Rhys Hoskins had a big moment home run for every time people said he was going to have a big moment home run, he would be the most decorated, accomplished baseball player of all time. And it wouldn't be close. It's not that I doubt him. I still like Rhys Hoskins. Plenty of people have kind of jumped off the Rhys Hoskins excitement train this year just because he was so bad for such long stretches. This is why they brought him in, for games like this, for moments like this. So I'm not out on the idea that Rhys Hoskins could have a moment tonight. It's just almost today I've seen on the internet, it's almost become gospel that Hoskins is going to have his moment. And God, I hope he does. Contreras, I don't know. Those at-bats really frustrated me last night. Those were some crummy at-bats. So we'll see. They need their veterans to provide something. The young guys, Sal's actually giving you a couple hits. Terang's been shades of Orlando Arce. He's been excellent. They struggled to get him out. It's been the veterans who haven't really pulled their weight offensively so far. And if that changes tonight, then I feel really good about the Brewers winning and advancing. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This would be Tim from Sparta calling.
Hey, Tim in Sparta. What's new? It's been a little while.
Well, not that long, Grant, really, but I just got to tell you, I was going to bring up what Cone did, which is, has this season been a success for the Brewers?
Mm-hmm.
And even with the win last night, if they hadn't won, if they were out of this, the answer would be hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, never in my life have I put any money down on baseball except for this year. I got the Brewers at over 75.
Okay.
So
yeah,
Mama got a nice piece of jewelry.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's so easy this time of year, and we always do this in sports radio, Tim, where you look back, it's like, well, if I would have told you in March that they had won 90-some games and made you know what I mean? But that's what's so difficult about this is over the course of the year, we see that the team is good. We see that they're competing. We get into the playoffs, and expectations should elevate. If a team shows us that they're capable of more, then we start to expect more. That's why these questions are always so difficult come this time of year.
But in the same point of view, the Brewers were picked for, in the beginning, they were picked for dead last or maybe second from the last in the division.
Yep.
And they keep defining every analytical rule that's out there, and they won throughout the season. Now, nobody has a good reason for this. The only reason that I have for it is just their simple team speed.
Yeah.
If those boys can get on base, they have done what used to happen when I was a kid, which was people stole bases all the time.
Station to station baseball.
Absolutely. And people think it's boring. I don't give a crap. It wins games. So let these boys, if they can just get their butts on base, they will win this game tonight. And I'm going to be so happy. And if they lose tonight, I'll be sad for a little while, but I will celebrate this season for what it was, which was an unexpected gift of joy throughout the last 6 months.
All right. So I don't disagree. I don't inherently agree or disagree with you, Tim. I think that's a fine perspective to have. I think when this season comes to an end, if it comes short of a World Series, we'll have those conversations. I don't know where I stand yet. Joining us now, quick hit from the ballpark. He's there covering tonight's proceedings. It's Scott Grodzki, CBS 58, friend of the network. I don't know if Scott's been on this show, been on Bill's show plenty of times. Scott, how is the energy in the park? I saw you did a live hit down on the field. You were down taking in the sights and sounds. Paint a picture for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's that kind of like nervous excitement energy that you only feel from playoff games and you only feel from elimination playoff games. The Brewers themselves seem to be pretty loose, which, if you know anything about this Brewers team this year, that's what you should be expecting. But they're such a young team. I don't think they really know what it is to fail yet. So they don't have that in the back of their mind. They're just ready to go for first pitch, 6:08.
Do you think that's why the young players, led by Jackson Chourio, but Terang's been excellent. Frelick has been, Frelick had a pretty non-productive offensive season. He got hot towards the end, and he's provided them a little something. Do you think that's why the younger players have been better than the veterans? The veterans have, for the most part, been pretty quiet. Is it just because the young guys don't know any better?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, and Frelick, by the way, has done great in the 2 games to the playoffs. Since he, probably shouldn't have been playing in them in the first place, coming off that hip injury. But we talked to Sal Frelick and Joey Ortiz about 2-3 hours ago, and they both talked about how the veterans sort of paved the way for them. Because, you look at this team and you have the Christian Yelich, Brandon Woodruff, Wade Miley, all of those guys who are the key veterans on this team. Most of them aren't playing at this point. There's a lot of injuries, and they've sort of had to step up, and that's been something that, they've all been able to do with pretty ruthless efficiency.
You've covered sports, CBS 58, all sports in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin. I don't want to ask you if Chourio's surprised you this year, but try to put into context of all the athletes and the experiences that you've had covering sports. Like, how does Chourio fit in? I keep thinking that I have him figured out, and I have him, I know what he's capable of, and then he has a night like last night.
It's a good question. I don't know. This is my 9th Packers season. I guess the closest thing I can think of is my first year here was Giannis's first All-Star season.
Sure.
That was somewhat similar in that, I was coming to Milwaukee from Rockford. I hadn't really watched a ton of Bucks basketball. I mostly knew Giannis as the last name that was a nightmare to pronounce.
Yeah.
But then you see him as this young guy, and it's like, oh my God, this guy is going to be just unbelievable. That's the closest thing I have to it. But you got to keep in mind, even for that, Giannis's first All-Star season was his 4th year in the league, 5th year in the league?
Yeah.
Chourio's doing this as a rookie. So I don't know that that's a fair comparison, but it's the closest thing I can get to you. And I think they're similar type talent level at that stage. Giannis for his first All-Star season and Chourio right now. Will Chourio end up being a 2-time MVP like Giannis? Obviously, it's way too early to know, but that's the best comparison I can make.
Yeah, I can't say definitively right now that I'd bet against that. It seems like he's just beginning to scratch the surface. Talk about his mannerisms, his personality. It just seems like he's joking around constantly. Not in a disrespectful way, but he does not seem stressed or bothered. This all truly does kind of seem like one big game to him from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's not disrespectful at all. He's a kid. He's a 20-year-old kid, and he, in a lot of ways, acts like it. Sal Frelick said something yesterday about how, they don't ever want him to lose that energy of being a kid. And by the way, Sal Frelick is 24, so he's not much removed from being a kid himself.
That was funny. I had to look up how old Sal is. It's like, Sal's not that old either, and he's speaking on him like he's his dad.
But that's what comes from the type of energy that Chourio has. Is he does have that. I don't want to say immature energy, because it's not like he's not serious about this. It's not like he's not in the moment. He's just so loose, so relaxed, so at ease. And that was one thing I definitely could not have seen coming when he came up here, because there were so many expectations on this guy, not just to be this superstar elite prospect, but the way the Brewers paid him, which right now might be the best contract in baseball, but the way the Brewers paid him, there was so much pressure on this guy in April and May. He wasn't Jackson Chourio that we see now. And he was able to just sort of roll with the punches and get to the spot where he's at right now, where, there's not, as great as Willy Adames was this year, William Contreras was this year, there's not a player on the team who I'd rather have at the plate with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th than Jackson Chourio.
Lastly, an actual, like a newsworthy thing, like, do you have an update? It seems like William Contreras is dealing with like knee tightness or a little soreness. He's DHing tonight. What did Murphy say? What's the latest on him that you've heard around the park?
Yeah, Murphy didn't say anything. They kept it quiet until they changed the lineup. I can tell you William Contreras was scheduled to talk to the media today at 2:15. They told us like 2:10 that he had a meeting that he had to be in, and then they gave us Frelick and Ortiz. So that was the first sign that, maybe something is a little off. We saw him We saw him running in batting practice around 3:30 and pull up a little bit. I don't know much more than that. It definitely seems like it's a knee, but if it was bad enough to keep him out of the game, he'd be out of the game. So at the very least, it's a nice thing that I fought very hard mentally against the designated hitter in the National League. Still a part of me that hates it, but today it works.
Yeah, I in principle hated getting rid of pitchers hitting. Well, 9 men field, 9 men hit, and then I would have to watch a pitcher hit, and I'm like, maybe I don't know, maybe it doesn't bother me too much. So
I'm never going to be totally on board with it, but this is exactly why you want it for the Brewers.
Yeah.
It couldn't come in a better spot.
Yeah, I agree. Scott, enjoy the game tonight. And I know you're a journalist. You're not there as a fan, but, enjoy taking it all in. We look forward to watching you on 58 Win or Lose later tonight. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Grodsky, CBS 58, down at American Family Field. Chourio, it is uncanny. I mean, he's just acting like a kid out there. And it's easy for me to be like, well, he's so young. He's such a child. But he came here from a different country, worked his way up through multiple levels of minor league baseball, has lived all over the country, has made millions of dollars. Like, he's more of an adult than me, times 10. And it was interesting to hear Sal Free, like, he's just a kid. And I think of, this is a niche reference, some of you will get it, when Family Guy did a Star Wars parody, and Chris, who was playing Luke, tells Peter, who's playing Han Solo, "You don't believe in the Force, do you, Han?" And Peter goes, "Oh, you mean the thing that you just started to learn about 5 minutes ago? You're going to lecture me on that?" That's kind of what I thought of listening to Sal Frelick. It's like, oh, you, the 24-year-old, lecturing the 20, or talking about, not lecturing, but talking about the 20-year-old like he's a child. Man, you're 24. Oh my God. It's the young players have been coming through so far. That's why I have high hopes tonight. And man, if like the veterans, if the big sticks, if the guys that you're supposed to count on actually show up and play well tonight, then I feel great about winning this game. 608-321-1670. Quick call, and then we'll go to take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant cannot wait for baseball tonight.
Vagabond John. Hello.
Excited. And I was just going to let the other callers, call in today. I'm obviously not a huge baseball guy, but Tim's call inspired me, right? I love it. So this is the standard that we'll be able to set and hold. And I love nothing more than holding fans to their standards that they set. So preseason, there was no expectations. They get into the playoffs, and even if they lose the first series, it will be an absolute joy of a season, and it is absolutely a success. And, just around the corner, we've got Badger Hoops, and I just can't wait to compare and contrast the team that is picked at the bottom. If they make it in the tournament and they lose their first game, will Team Sparta have the same attitude? Are we holding this to a different standard? Is baseball that different? Because I think this season's been a hell of a lot of fun.
I do think baseball is different to a degree, and I think the Brewers' place relative to their competition is unique as well. But I see your point.
Yeah,
and appreciate it.
It's been fun, and I do think that regular seasons can be a lot of fun. And I wish Wisconsin sports fans as a whole applied the same joy that we had this Brewers season to our other sports teams, because the regular season's a heck of a lot of fun, and then we see what happens. We have a bite of the apple in front of us tonight. We can get over the hump that we've been getting over. So go Brewers! Can't wait. Excited to hear all the joy from the Brewers fans, and it sounds like everybody's kind of sold that this is a success no matter what happens. So we're playing with house money.
So I think so to a degree. I also think, and Vagabond John, appreciate it, I think as the season goes along and a team starts to exceed your expectations, you should raise your expectations, right? You should ebb and flow with your team. If a team is projected to win 96 games and all of their starters get hurt and the season is a catastrophe, you're not there in September saying, you're supposed to win 96 games, right? You would have adjusted your expectations, said, okay, we're not going to be the team that maybe we originally thought. Goes both ways. I got to get one more break in because we're done at 5:30. So I want to keep talking about this, but we'll talk about it more on the other side. It's the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Adames, the runner at first. The pitch. Swing and a fly ball. Right center field. It is up. It is good. Off the top of the wall and out of here. Garrett Mitchell, a go-ahead 2-run home run in the bottom of the 8th inning.
Call courtesy Brewers Radio Network. WTMJ Jeff Levering. And I don't know when he developed this. I've always enjoyed Jeff Levering. I always think he's been a good announcer, but it seems like the last couple of years, when he needs to, he's really developed that fifth gear where he can really turn it up. It's so hard to announce games. And I'm on the radio every day for 2 hours. If you put me in front of a microphone and asked me to do that job, I'd be a train wreck. I would be awful. It's so hard to do games. And yet, announcers are the most criticized people ever. I think Boog Sciambi, Boog, for simplicity's sake, we'll just call him Boog. I think Boog's been great. Good national announcer, good energy when either team does something good. I really like Doug Glanville, too. The problem with baseball is, and I think the national announcers get it, I can't remember if it was Boog or if it was Glanville, someone on the broadcast, might have even been Jesse Rogers, who pointed out, like, yeah, this is the time of year where we come in, the local crews leave, and everyone hates us because they think they hate our team. It's just they're put in such a tough spot because baseball is such a closely followed sport. The people who have been watching the Brewers all summer know every little ounce of information about this team. And national announcers can have production meetings. They can get really into it. They can try to learn as much. They can try to prepare as much as they can, but they're just not going to be the announcers that did it for 162 games, who are at the ballpark all summer long. They just can't. So I've seen a lot of people tweeting today, like, we should get an ESPN and an ESPN2 option for the home and away for the, for each crew. And that'd be fine. I think the ESPN crew's been good. And if you really listen on the radio broadcast, the pregame is going to fire up in about 4 minutes here anyways. Let's take one more call and then we'll start to wrap up the show. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
Eric, bring us home. Bring us home. Tell me what I need to hear before this game.
I just got nothing but good feelings about this game tonight. I got nothing but great feelings about it. It is gonna be awesome. It just feels different.
Isn't that amazing? One win. The Brewers lost 10 of 11 postseason win. One postseason win and a couple nice moments last night. Isn't it amazing how that just flipped a switch with Brewers fans?
It did, but the whole season as a whole, Grant, has been better, and it's just building up now. Get this win tonight, and you just keep building. You build on successes. It's going to be an awesome night. and you're going to sit down and you're going to want to do your podcast and your streaming because you're going to be talking about a win. Guaranteed from I-90.
Guaranteed from I-90. Maybe, man, I really hope because I played that soundbite of Chuck Freeman yesterday. I think Brewers fans deserve this. Like, man, losing 10 of 11 playoff games, like just advancing to one more series, getting to watch Jackson Chourio for a couple more games, getting a crack, by the way, at the Phillies who have been on ice for a couple of days. The whole idea of just getting into the playoffs is eventually you're going to get hot and another team's going to get cold. Well, let's see if the Phillies can't get cold. Like Brewers fans, we've earned that, Eric, on I-90. Not to sound all needy, but I need this. I've earned this.
You got everything you need. You got all three things you need. It's all right, all right, all right.
All right.
Everything is awesome. And, you know, this Brewer team's a lot like the Packers last year for you guys, right?
Yeah.
They don't know any better.
Yeah.
They're running around all the field out there warming up. They know no better. So why spoil it for them with a bunch of bad attitude?
Well, that's
Just
what
let them go and win it.
I would agree. And the youngins, Eric, I appreciate it. I got to run. I literally got 60 seconds left in the show. Happy we could get you in. I think the young players have been outperforming the veterans, maybe for that reason. Maybe Willy Adames feels the pressure of the moment, but also is thinking like, man, any of these games, these could be the last time I ever play for the Brewers in this stadium, in this building. It's the last time I ever put on this jersey. Right? Contreras has been around the block a little bit more. He's young, but he's been around the block a little bit more. He knows the weight and the value in these situations. And I miss Yelich. God, I miss Yelich. God, I wish he was playing. It just sucks that he's not playing. Put him in the middle of this order, his leadership, his presence. Such is life. The 20-year-old will take care of it. Don't worry. We can rely on him. God, the freaking 20-year-old. He's got it. Well, enjoy the Brewer game tonight, win or lose. We'll talk about it tomorrow come 4 o'clock. Of course, Ebo back at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. No Thorson and Heilprin tonight because we got the Brewers going on. So get your Badgers coverage on the camp and starting tomorrow at 6 with Ebo's Over the Line. Talk to you tomorrow.